Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another character spotlight for Marvel's Contest of Champions. Today we're looking at a character who is really awesome and really powerful, but is the epitome of the glass cannon mechanic. So let's talk a little bit about Raccoon. Now, I've been playing this game for over 5 years at this point, and I distinctly remember that Raccoon was the first ever 4-star champion that I had, which made me really excited until I learned that he was a glass cannon champion, and I had to be a little bit more cautious and careful about how I played the character. However, there's still a lot of really good things about how Raccoon functions, especially once you have his signature ability awakened. But we'll talk about that all in due time when we've had a look at the entire scope of how his kit works. So let's start from the beginning. His special 1 attack has a 100% chance to increase the critical damage rating, otherwise known as a cruelty buff, by a significant margin for 9 seconds or longer. And these durations can increase as you continue to rank up the character, which is always a really good thing to see. And that special 1 activation really does pack quite a punch, and it covers a decent amount of ground as well. Though you should never be using it as an approaching option, rather an option or a tool to help push your opponents back a little bit further. The special 2 attack is a lot more powerful and has some other beneficial effects, such as a 100% chance to inflict a pretty decently powerful bleed that lasts for 4 seconds, which of course you can extend by investing into the Deep Wounds Masteries, as well as a 100% chance to inflict an armor break debuff, which will remove an armor up charge from the opposing target if they have one active at the time, as well as reducing the armor rating by a fairly considerable amount for a 6-second duration. So all things considered, it deals a damage over time effect, as well as opening up opportunities for additional follow-up damage, which is always an awesome thing to see. The one thing that you do need to remain cautious about with this attack is it does have a projectile attribute to it, given that it is a grenade that's thrown out, and that can be very tricky for defenders to evade if they're newer to the game, or if the opposing players are newer to the game. They're going to have a harder time initially coping with this attack when dealing with this character on defense. But once you learn how the timing works on that, you're really not going to get mixed up by it. But on the off chance that you do, you're going to take massive amounts of damage, because this is a very high damage dealing move that you really don't want to underestimate. The special 3 ability is basically the same as the special 2 in terms of what it has to offer. It has the same chance and damage for bleed, and the same chance and defense reduction for armor break as the special 2 does. So there's really no scenario under which you would want to use the special 3 as opposed to the special 2. The one thing that you may want to keep in mind is the fact that it does have a very unique animation, and that is really kind of funny and humorous. But while we're talking about special 3s, you will also want to note that the special 3 animation for all of your opponents is also different. Instead of carrying out their standard special 3 animation attack, they will carry out a sequence where they will wrestle Rocket's gun away from him and then give him a swift kick, sending him flying and retreating back to the other wall. So it's really kind of funny to watch, but never fun to experience for sure. The other thing that Rocket has, which is fairly unique to him, is he had one of the first ever applications of a dashback hold block mechanic. And we've seen that with a couple of other characters as well, but this one has remained fairly consistent, where Rocket has rigged up a little harness that he can use to imbue himself with a couple of different protections over the course of the fight. And they have a set cycle and also have reduced efficiency the more times that you try and apply these buffs over the course of the fight. The first one is a Kinetic Shield, which will resist 4 physical attacks that come in by a rating, or by a certain rating for each individual charge. So of course the later hits in that combo aren't going to be as beneficial in terms of having the damage reduced. The Shell Shield is the next one, which instead of applying a kinetic buff, it applies a armor up buff, again with 4 separate charges, which provide a certain amount of armor rating for each of those charges, and they again expire when Rocket has a physical connection. That does not, neither of those are affected by blocks or blocked attacks if he gets a parry off or has the opponent hitting into his block. And then the final option that it will rotate over to is the Emergency Shield, which has only 3 charges but will protect you from damage from specifically special attacks, each of those charges providing a 20% resistance. So if you know that you are in a place where you're not going to be able to stave off a special 3 from your opponent, if you can cycle over to that Emergency Shield before the special 3 is detonated, you will automatically take 60% less damage than you otherwise would from that attack. It's still going to hurt quite a lot, especially with Rocket fitting into that glass cannon archetype, but it really does provide a nice little extra security in terms of reducing the damage that you would be receiving from those special attacks. And again, keep in mind that the more you rotate through those options in the course of a fight, the less efficient that they will be. However, you really shouldn't be in a position where you're openly relying on those mechanics to work for you, because Rocket is designed to end some of these fights a lot faster than he otherwise would. The only other thing to mention is Rocket's signature ability, which allows Rocket to increase his critical rating, so his precision in terms of getting critical hits, by a certain margin for every single hit in his combo meter. And this did not get hit with the same nerf that Star-Lord's signature ability did, where it does not have a defined cap. So the longer you build up a combo, the more critical damage you are going to be dealing, and the more critical hits you are going to be dealing, and then you have other ways that you can bolster the critical hit damage throughout Rocket's kit, mainly by timing out that special 1 attack and getting the best benefit out of that. Now, all things considered, Rocket's a very well-rounded character. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of changes that would really be warranted to his kit. He's intentionally designed to pack a powerful punch, but also not be able to take a hit. If I were to offer any suggestions or changes to his kit, I would say that you would probably want to give him some sort of benefit with that dashback mechanic of being able to use a trade-off to get some additional damage out of the charges that he has stored on him, instead of waiting for those to be cycled through at a later time. You would probably have to rework something to that effect of maybe not making them as potent, but making sure that the roll-off doesn't happen as it currently does with those effects. But there's really a lot of things that you could do with tweaking that particular aspect of the character. I don't feel like he needs to be reanimated. I don't feel like there's any major overhauls that are actually warranted for this character. But what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment of Rocket? Do you disagree? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe for that daily variety content. Thanks again for your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.